As we all try to make sense of Season 2's huge cliffhanger, there's one character who may be much more important to the future of the Umbrella Academy than any of us realise. Yippee-ki-yay movie lovers, I'm Jan, and in this video I'm explaining why Harlan could well be a secret member of the Sparrow Academy, and I'll be revealing hidden clues to his potential backstory with the Commission. Obviously spoilers ahead, so take care. In Harlan's very last scene of Season 2, we see him leaving Dallas with his mother Sissy, and although Vanya had seemingly withdrawn the power she transferred to him when he drowned, the final moment left us in no doubt that Harlan has retained some of her telekinetic powers. And we saw him levitating his little wooden bird, a strong pointer to a connection between him and the Sparrow Academy. But what would be Harlan's role in the Sparrow team? Although he's just a young boy in 1963, 56 years later in 2019, Harlan would be well over 60 years old. So rather than him being recruited by Hargreaves in 1989, when the other super babies are born, it's more likely that Hargreaves finds out about Harlan if the young boy's superpowers show up again later in the 60s. They could begin to work together to set up a new superhero team, with Harlan becoming a superhero who dubs himself the Sparrow after his favourite toy, and that could lead Hargreaves to name the Sparrow Academy in Harlan's honour, especially if he dies on a mission similar to young Ben in the original timeline. An alternative is that in this new timeline, the origin of the super babies is changed, and rather than being born spontaneously as in the original timeline, Harlan is the Sparrow's father and they inherited their powers from him. The glowing lights that Hargreaves released in the finale of Season 1 appear to be behind both Vanya and Harlan's powers, given that we saw her transfer them into Harlan. So just as Vanya was able to reproduce her powers in another person, what's to say that Harlan can't do the same and pass on his powers to others too? If Harlan were to die, as I mentioned before, he could still live on inside the mysterious green cube that floats alongside the sparrows on the balcony in the finale. Now I know this may sound crazy, but it's not outside the bounds of possibility in the bonkers world of the Umbrella Academy, where we've already had a talking, smoking goldfish in a fishbowl attached to a robotic body. We know Harlan has telekinetic powers and can therefore make objects float, so it's interesting that the cube not only floats into view, but it also glows inside, hinting that it may be sentient. And curiously, the first time we see Harlan in the show, he's actually wearing green. Indeed, there's a precedent for something similar to this in another superhero show, Doom Patrol. In that DC show, the body of Cliff Steele was destroyed beyond repair in a car accident. However, his brain was salvaged, kept alive and put into a robot body, turning him into Robot Man. And the Doom Patrol comics were a major influence on Gerard Way when he wrote the original Umbrella Academy comics. So even if Harlan were fatally wounded on a mission, Hargreaves could have saved his consciousness and transferred it into the cube. We've already seen Hargreaves save Luther from death by injecting him with a serum that changes his physiology into something more ape-like. And in Season 2, Hargreaves also brought Pogo back from the dead in a similar way. Alternatively, Harlan could still be alive and using his powers to control the cube himself. Another possibility hinted at within the show is that Harlan becomes involved with the Commission. When his powers blew up in the penultimate episode of Season 2, it showed up as a major timeline anomaly on the Commission's infinite switchboard. The handler immediately recognised the significance of this event, and she told Harlan that she could take him somewhere that would understand and help him.
I can take you to a place where you will be properly understood, listened to. I can tap into your potential, and together, just the two of us, we can do incredible things.
Now, Harlan may have only spoken a few times in Season 2, but it was shown that he could understand the conversations around him and whatever was being said to him. So the handler's words to him may well have planted an idea or a question in his mind about who she was, where she came from, and what the place was she was referring to. We also know in the finale from Herb that the Commission will be looking for a new board of directors and therefore a new head of the organisation. So when Harlan's powers likely show up again on the infinite switchboard, I expect the Commission to take an interest in him again. He may even get recruited to work for them, similar to how the handler recruited Five as a Commission agent in the first season. In fact, Harlan's name may actually be a reference to Andrew Harlan, the protagonist from Isaac Asimov's The End of Eternity, a novel which has some incredible parallels with the Umbrella Academy. The End of Eternity is a time travel story in which people called the Eternals run an organisation that exists outside of time and manipulates events throughout history to create and maintain what they see as an optimum timeline that will bring about the maximum good for humanity. Ring any bells so far?
So the Commission controls time?
More like we maintain the correct timeline, but
basically, yeah.
We are tasked with the preservation of the time continuum through manipulation and removals.
In Asimov's novel, Harlan is an Eternal technician who makes modifications to the human timeline, and I can't help but think that the connection between the Umbrella Academy's Temps Commission, or Temps Aeternalis as it's called in the comics, and Asimov's Eternals hints at Harlan ending up at the Commission in some way, maybe even taking charge. And if he does, perhaps he will become instrumental in ensuring the Commission follows a policy that leads to the creation of the Sparrow Academy. Another small but important detail from the finale of Season 2 is that when Sissy and Harlan leave Texas for California, we see them crossing the state border into New Mexico. New Mexico is of course en route from Texas to California, but it's interesting that the series chooses to show us this particular moment in the journey, because it means that Sissy and Harlan could be passing near the site of the Roswell UFO incident, which has been the subject of numerous UFO and alien conspiracy theories. The Umbrella Academy already made allusions to various JFK assassination conspiracy theories in Season 2, and given the reveal of Hargreaves as an alien, the show may be hinting at something strange happening to Harlan as he passes through New Mexico. Could he be intercepted by the Commission or somebody connected to the now deceased Majestic 12 or some other nefarious organisation? We've got numerous possibilities pointing towards Harlan either setting up or helping form the Sparrow Academy, perhaps even being the Cube member of the team. But what could suggest that he will be a future antagonist in the series? Well, it's interesting to note that at the end of Season 2, when new Ben arrives on the scene, he's immediately rude and hostile towards the Umbrella team.
Dad, who the hell are these assholes?
We know that Reginald Hargreaves is a cold and unforgiving father, as we've seen in flashbacks from both seasons. And he even admitted to Luther that he has a deep dislike of children. And given how he reacted to the Umbrella Academy that he met in 1963,
I've seen about enough.
it seems clear that he must have decided to form the Sparrow Academy with very different children. Given the way new Ben has turned out in comparison to the much more gentle Ben from the first 2 seasons, it seems like this new group may have grown up with a nastier and colder edge to them, which is why the Sparrows and possibly Harlan may turn out to be Season 3's antagonists. On the outside they may seem to be superheroes, but behind the scenes they may have a darker side, similar perhaps to the corrupt nature of the superheroes in The Boys. We should also remember that Harlan inherited Vanya's powers, and she became an antagonist in the first season due to the way she'd been treated by her father and family. In situations of extreme emotional distress, Vanya's powers can spiral out of control, something we also saw when she was being tortured by the FBI in Season 2. Harlan also went supernova when he accidentally caused the death of his father after his powers deflected a bullet into Carl. However, after Vanya extracted the lights from Harlan, he seems to be calmer and more in control, for example being able to levitate his toy bird at will. But we don't know whether he can keep the powers in check if some kind of tragedy strikes again. What if the authorities come after Sissy and him when they investigate Carl's death and try to take her away from him, for instance? Of course, I don't think it's at all certain that Harlan will end up on the dark side, especially because in all of his Season 2 scenes with Vanya, he seemed sweet and sensitive. Still, there is something a little ominous about the final scene as we see him and Sissy cross the border into New Mexico. And if you want to learn more about the various conspiracies that were referenced in Season 2, as well as all of the secret Sparrow symbols hidden throughout the season, tap here to watch my Things You Missed video or follow the link in the video description. So, who do you think Harlan will turn out to be in Season 3? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, a thumbs up is hugely appreciated. Tap left for a full explanation of everything in Season 2, including the ending, the Umbrella Academy's time travel rules and multiverse, who the Sparrow Academy really are, and all the new powers that were revealed. Thanks for watching and see you next time, yippee-ki-yay movie lovers!